Hey friends, Kelly Calabrese here with your intentionally fabulous tip of the day. And today we are talking about communication during separation, divorce, and even post-divorce. Wow, don't you wish we had all learned more about communication and conflict resolution? If you've been through this season, it can be really tricky, right? You have two very emotional, hurt people who are trying to communicate and make some major life decisions. And wow, it really becomes tricky. So I want to give you some tips because it isn't simple and no two situations are exactly the same. But I want to give you some strategies that if you use these, they can really help things to go so much smoother. One is you want to discuss, so pre-discuss how each of you feels about communicating. So before issues start to come up, and none of us could even predict some of the things that might come up, right? I mean, things that neither one of us even thought of will happen in certain situations. But if you decide ahead of time, for example, let's have just email communication, or let's just use text, or let's go 30 days just with minimal communication and then revisit. Maybe you need to have no contact just for a short amount of time. Um, so the first thing really to decide is, what do you want? What would you like to see happen? So check in with your emotions, your spirit, just where you are emotionally. Usually, less is better. I know that might seem counter intuitive, but this has been your normal. You've been with this person, most intimate person who knows you more than anyone else on the planet, and now your lives are going in separate ways. So you're used to being with this person, conversing with this person all the time. And now the separation might be the best thing because when you do communicate, it can seem really hurtful. So, for example, if you're still connected on social media and you're watching what the other person is doing, you're watching their updates and, just letting that play in your mind and suck your energy and just trying to decide what does that post mean, and you can see how that can just suck the life out of you. So you might decide to disconnect on social media, and it might be temporary. Not saying you guys can't be great friends later down the road, but during this season typically less communication is better. Now of course, if there's children involved, if there's a business involved, if there's money involved that you need to communicate on, keep it to the most important, urgent communication, very focused on those topics, and don't go down any rabbit holes bringing up anything else. So, for example, the conversations that start with "and you" and that use words like always and never typically are inflammatory and really counterproductive. So you want to always take the high road, keep it positive, stay focused on the important, urgent things for you to accomplish. And when it comes to the kids, you want to be encouraging with the kids, letting them not be a go-between, a messenger between the two parents. They do not want to be put in that situation. They did not ask for this. Try as much as possible to keep the kids in their routines and on schedule, and pre-discuss things like holidays as much as possible to keep the kids feeling loved and having some type of security, some safety, some less uncertainty about their future is really what's important. Are you looking to get closure? Again, separation is probably better as much as possible. So disconnecting those areas of your lives that were intertwined. Now, if there is a chance of reconciliation and it's healthy and it's safe and it's the best possible interest for both of you, then that would be a completely different conversation and communication, and hopefully there's professional counseling that's involved there. But I'm talking about if you both know you're going your separate ways, you want to pick your battles and your conversations, watch your language, don't be accusatory, inflammatory. Really be a good listener. I know it might be hard to do that because things may have been very unjust and just unfair, but listen to the conversation, be empathetic. Sometimes we do need to put ourselves in the other person's shoes. If they did something that was, terrible, horrific, or you did, it's usually because it's unresolved hurts that we had. So if you can empathize with that, that may help you to keep taking that high road and keeping the conversation positive. The no contact really helps with the healing. Because when you do have those conversations and you hear like, oh, he got a new car, or oh, a friend said they saw him in town, at a restaurant with someone, or someone saw him at the store, whatever, that just gets your mind revving up again, and it doesn't help with the healing. So the separation of the spirit, the physical, the emotional, the communication, all of that is usually best to then take that energy and redirect it someplace else. So instead of looking at what your spouse was doing, what he said, what she said, instead using that towards something positive, even something small that could be encouraging. And maybe it was something that you did together, and now you're okay and confident doing that thing alone. Look for the small wins and focus on that to help with your healing. So set some boundaries, set some ground rules, have a conversation about how you're going to resolve conflict, how you're going to communicate. And as time goes on, it can probably be even more minimal, so that ultimately that person does become smaller in your life. And eventually, can you be friends? Yes, it is possible. Every situation is different. I know several friends who are divorced and say they are great friends, they are best friends, and it's healthy, and they have those boundaries, knowing they're not going to reconcile. They're just friends, and they rely on that, knowing that there was a connection as friends, but not as husband and wife. So give yourself room to grieve, recover, and grow. Um, if you need to have a mediator to communicate, then do that. Obviously, there's important topics that you want to discuss, especially pre-divorce, so that there are no surprises when you get those divorce papers. And so communicate on the important things and the urgent things. Keep peace, check in with yourself, and try and foresee any conversations that you might need to have before they get to a head or a place where it's an explosion or emotional, and then it sets you back. The idea here is we don't want you to be stuck. We want you to be moving forward in that grief cycle, getting to a place of health and getting to a place of moving on to having an intentionally fabulous life. Speaking of intentionally fabulous, I have a group called Intentionally Fabulous on Facebook that is specifically for women going through any stages of separation, divorce, and post-divorce who want to heal through that cycle and live an amazing bonus life. I would love if you went there and joined the group and got the support and the help and the healing and just the community that you need there. So have an awesome, intentionally fabulous day. Do the best you can every day to communicate well and self-correct. Thanks, friends.